Hello, today we're going to be doing a digital self-portrait using the Sketchbook app. First thing you're going to do is open up and create a new canvas in Sketchbook. Go ahead into your photos or take a photo and find a decent picture of yourself. You're going to be putting that in its own separate layer. Now what I like to do too here is actually duplicate the layer and save one kind of as a backup. One thing you don't want to do is move this picture once you begin. So the next step is create another new layer, and in this layer you're going to be creating an outline. So what I did here is decrease the opacity of the photograph, allowing myself to see the lines that I'm drawing a little bit better. One of the most important things during this part of the process is to try your best to use a continuous unbroken line because we're going to be using these outlines as a way to fill areas with color. And if you have a small break in the outline, what will happen is that color will spill out into other areas rather than keeping it within that particular shape. When it comes to doing some of the more detailed areas like the facial features, go ahead and zoom in as close as you can on that photograph, making it easier to pick up some of that detail. I would not change the size of the stroke that you're using, although in this case with the Apple Pencil 2 there is some pressure sensitivity which allows you to go thinner and thicker with your lines. But sometimes too thin of a line or a textured line again could make some of those colors spill out. At this point I do like to click between layers and see where I'm at. Once my outlines are complete, I do create a second layer or a duplicate layer again as a backup. Now at this point what I'm doing is just going ahead and using the fill bucket to fill certain areas with colors. Now, in the back of my mind I know that I have a backup layer, so I go ahead and just dive right in with this, not worrying too much about exact colors and that sort of thing. You're going to find that during this process you'll see a few spots like there where as I began to fill it leaked out or spilled into another area. So in that case you're going to have to kind of search and see where that break in the line is. Okay, so at this point I do have one that is colored, but I'm going to actually show you a different process here where you go into the outline drawing and use the magic wand tool to select certain areas and then fill them with color. But when you fill them with color, you fill in a separate layer. And what this does is gives you colors without the black line included in that layer. Now this is a technique that you can use if you know that in the long run you're not going to want a picture that has been outlined in black. So this is just a preference thing, but a little heads up if you don't want that cartoonish or pop art look and you'd like to go more realistic, you're probably going to want to get rid of those black outlines. So at this point I'm going through and just checking to make sure I've filled all areas, and now I'm going to do some shading. So I've switched over to the airbrush tool and I'm going ahead and getting some values and tones within that skin just for a little variety. I'm also going to switch over and get a lighter skin tone and do some highlights as well. So really those first fills were just my base coats. At this point I'm adding some detail, including some shading and even some glare on the glasses. Now for a background you could choose a solid color, or you can go in and into your photos and you could start to mix and match some of this hand-drawn imagery with some photography if you'd like. Now one of the things you'll notice is that wherever you have not filled in, the background will tend to leak through. So you may want to have to do some fills. So for the end here, I'd just like to show you a quick time lapse of the entire process. Don't be afraid to experiment with some of those tools in the toolbox and the variety of different brushes that are available. This is your basic self-portrait, but there's many more things you could do. Thanks for watching.